Books. It seems like these days there's a lot of books about everything that your mind can think of. From fictions to novels to self-development and the many other categories that are out there, you'll often find yourself overwhelmed with the amount of books that you can read. However, as much as we would love to learn everything that we find interesting, we still get caught up with our daily lives and routines, which makes it quite impossible to finish every book that's out there. And that brings us to a really important question. How many books is actually enough? How many books do I have to read in order for me to feel like I'm living my perfect life? A few books for my career, a little more for my health, some more for relationships, and then a bunch for other stuff as well. And so with that being kept in mind, the quest for the perfect book started. I did a lot of research and started reading some of the books that I found. However, out of them all, one stood out to me the most. One book in particular felt different, and it easily became clear that this book will help me change my life around. That book is called Atomic Habits, and here's why you need to read this book at least once in your life. Over a year ago, I made a video that talks about habit change, and in that video I mentioned an article that talks about this book called Atomic Habits. Now, I did say in the video that I have never read the book before, but as I was reading the article, I couldn't help but notice how accurately it describes habits and how do they function. And so as I was starting to do my 30-day challenge for reading more books, which by the way is a video that is coming soon, it made complete sense that I should start with this one. And that's what I did. I quickly bought the book from a bookshop near me and I started reading it on a daily basis. My first impressions of reading the book were that it doesn't really use any heavy words in English. My English is by all means not perfect, and before reading anything I was preparing myself to start searching for new vocabs and learn them in the process, which was something that I was excited about, but I was really surprised to see that it didn't really have any words that aren't quite common in English, at least for me. I don't think I went to search a meaning for a word, not even once throughout the whole book, which is something good. It means that no matter what level of English you have, you can still read this book and fully understand it. Now, before I get into the good stuff of the book, I decided to divide it for you and tell you my 3 main questions that I think you should ask yourself after reading a book that can tell you whether this was a good read or not. These 3 questions are: what does it talk about? Why do you need it? And how did it help? And then at the very end of the video, I'm going to tell you why this book can literally help anyone out there with whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. So make sure to watch the whole video so that you stay on track with all the information that I share with you from this book that can help you change your life around. Now, first of all, what does it talk about? In this book, James Clear talks about how small actions, or as he describes it, tiny changes can lead to remarkable results. Hence the name Atomic Habits, which illustrates on how tiny things in our life can have a huge impact on our lifestyle. First of all, he talks about all the fundamentals and why tiny changes actually lead to big differences. And to make things easier, I'm gonna show you what he talks about in these diagrams.
Usually, when a lot of people are working on some projects in their life, they assume that the progress will look something like this, which is linear. So this is what you think should happen. However, what happens is that the progress is never linear. The improvements are very minor at the beginning, but then with time, it becomes better and better, and it's actually higher than what you expected it to be in the first place. And then we end up with this area over here, which is like the difference of like what you expect and what you're getting, and this is usually called the valley of disappointment. A lot of people during this time feel very disappointed and discouraged because obviously they're not reaching the goals that they set for themselves. However, if you stay positive and stay consistent with the habits that you're doing, even if it looks very tiny at the beginning, you need to trust that it's going to be a much bigger result in the end. And there's even one saying that I really like in the book that says that a lot of people feel discouraged that they put in the work for weeks, maybe months, and didn't see quick results. However, these results are being stored and not wasted. It's just not until later when we realize the value of the work we have done before. And what that means is that it is only when you're here when you will actually realize and appreciate all the habits that you have been maintaining and all the work that you have been putting at the time of being here, because that work wasn't actually being wasted. Even though it didn't meet your expectations, but it wasn't wasted, it was only being stored, and it compounded over time to become even better than what you have wanted in the first place.
Another thing that James talks about in this part is the science of how habits work. And for this, he divided them into 4 stages: the cue, craving, response, and reward. The cue is the trigger that initiates your action. Craving is the desire that drives you into doing them. Response is the action that you have taken. Reward is the end goal of every habit. And with that, you'll end up with the habit loop, where essentially every stage leads to the one after and repeats over and over, creating an endless cycle. Last but not least, he talks about how to transform these 4 stages into 4 laws that you can implement in your life that can help you build a new good habit or get rid of a bad one that you have. Oops. And I'm gonna illustrate more on this later in this video. But now, let's talk about why do you need it. Like everyone else, I'm sure we all have bad habits that we wish to change or good ones that we wish to build. Most of us usually make a list of things that we want to change in our lifestyle, but it becomes really difficult for us to keep up with them all. I'm sure if you're watching this video, there's at least one thing that you told yourself you want to do in your life, but you still haven't yet. And the answer for that is because we never really fully understood how our brain is functioning when it comes to these habits and what are the things that are preventing us from reaching our goals. Not only that, but you'd be surprised if you know how much the environment you're creating around you affects your actions. The objects that you use, the friends that you have, the mentality you put yourself in, and most importantly, the routine that you created for yourself. These are all essentially elements that you're using to create this bubble around yourself that defines who you are and prevents you from changing. And what this book does is that it helps you realize this bubble around you, give you the keys that you can use in order to get out of it and then achieve your goals. How did it help? Let's get into the 4 laws of habit change. Now, like we said before, habits are divided into 4 stages: cue, craving, response, and reward. And we said that in order for us to build a new habit, we would have to transform these stages into 4 laws. These 4 laws are: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. And by doing that, you're basically just hacking all the stages of a habit. To initiate a cue, make it obvious. To crave something, make it attractive. To do the response, make it easy. And to make sure that you keep on doing that again and again, make it satisfying. And then if you want to get rid of a bad habit, then all you have to do is just the opposite of these things. Don't make it obvious so that you don't initiate a cue. Don't make it attractive so that you don't crave it. Don't make it easy, because if it wasn't, then you're less likely to do it in the first place. And most importantly, don't make it satisfying, because no one would love to do something that they don't enjoy. It's really that simple, and I know that it's easier said than done, but trust me, if you try to implement these 4 laws into building or getting rid of any habit, then you're easily and quickly see some differences in your results. Let me give you an example of how to do that. A while ago, I made a challenge of quitting sugar for 30 days, which is a video that is already posted on this channel, so if you would like to watch that, then it should be linked in the description. But anyways, short story is that I used to eat a lot of sugar, and it was a habit that I was willing to get rid of. The first thing I did to implement these laws is I asked myself, what are the reasons for me eating sugar? Or in other words, what's the cue? I quickly came to the realization that I eat sugar mostly when I'm bored, when I'm studying, and that I do store it in my room as well. So I decided not to buy chocolate anymore and to get rid of all the ones that I had stored in my room. That way, they were no longer obvious to me. I then constantly reminded myself of the bad outcomes of eating sugar, which made it really unattractive to me. Also, since I get rid of all the chocolate that I stored in my room, it meant that whenever I am craving something, I would have to get dressed, leave the house, go to the market, buy chocolate, and then come back, which makes the process not so easy. It increases the friction, and so for that reason, I am less likely to do that. Last but not least, to make it unsatisfying, I told all my friends that I'm quitting sugar for 30 days, which meant that if I was going to cheat, I won't hear the end of it from them. So I didn't. You can also make it unsatisfying by placing some bets with your friends. Like, you can give someone $10 and tell them, if you see me eating chocolate, then you can keep this $10. And I'm sure the idea of losing money isn't that satisfying. So if you do that, most probably you're not gonna eat chocolate anymore, because you don't want to keep losing money every time you do so. However, to build a new habit, all you have to do is simply, again, just do the opposite of these things. Place it in front of you so that it's obvious and you're always reminded of it. Make it easy by reducing the friction and putting easy tasks that are not impossible to reach, and then give yourself a reward every time you do it, because then you're most likely going to want to do it again and again. Another thing that he talked about is not just the physical things, but the mental ones too. And what I mean by that is, let's say you want to be a writer. So initially, the first thing that you would do is you wake up, you tell yourself, I want to be a writer, I want to write 500 words today. Which is good that you're reminding yourself of the task, but how about rephrasing it? And instead of saying, I want to be a writer, you say, I am a writer and I need to write 500 words today. I know that this small change doesn't sound like it makes a big difference, but trust me when I tell you that it does. Once you teach your brain to create this image of yourself as a writer, you're more likely going to put in the work. Because think of it this way. Let's say you're a student, and so you go to school every single day because you know that you are a student, and thus you have this commitment of going to school every single day. Now, whether you enjoy it or whether you don't, it's not really important because you already created the image of yourself, or you told yourself the fact that you are a student means that you have to get up and go to school. In fact, most of us don't really enjoy going to university, especially when it's 8 a.m. in the morning, but we still do it anyways because we defined ourselves as students, and thus we have this commitment of going every day. And really, it is the same thing with everything else in life. If you want to do whatever it is that you want to do or be whoever you want to be, then just convince yourself that you are that person and you will see how much difference it will make. If you want to be an athlete, then treat yourself as an athlete, act as an athlete, and believe that you are an athlete. That way you have this commitment of going and putting in the work and effort to become an athlete. Now, don't convince yourself that you're something without actually doing any of the work, because that won't really get you anywhere. But actually, the whole purpose behind doing all of this is to convince yourself to put in more effort and more work. And this is why this book can actually help anyone out there with whatever field they are in or whatever it is that they're trying to achieve, because everything that you want to do in life or whoever you want to be in life, it is all related and linked back to your habits, because the habits that you do on a daily basis defines who you are and defines the lifestyle that you have. They are a key factor of reaching or never reaching the goals that you want. So if you find yourself struggling with reaching some of the goals that you have set, or becoming the person who you want to be, getting rid of a bad habit or building a new one, then consider reading this book, and I'm sure you will get the answers you were looking for. With that being said, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or got something out of it, then please leave a like, subscribe to watch more videos like this in the future, and if you know someone who might benefit from watching this video, then kindly consider sharing it with them. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.